Hello everyone, it's Dustin Nolf with Keller Williams Realty's the Dustin Nolf team and the Full House LLC Pittsburgh Property Management. How are we all doing? Welcome back. Today we are going to revisit one of my most popular videos, and we are going to look at what it takes to net $100,000 in income or profit, we'll call it, from real estate sales. Now, when I say net and profit, we are talking about taking home $100,000. We are not talking about making $100,000. I've seen online some of these financial gurus and these marketers and whatnot. I've also seen agents try to say, you know, I made $250,000 this year, or learn how I made $1 million this year in my online business. When these people say made, I have a hard time believing sometimes that they're actually talking about profiting. I've seen numerous people say they made $1 million and they talked about their gross revenue, how they brought in a gross revenue of $1 million. Now the thing is that you can bring in a gross revenue of $1 million on a business and only net $10,000 in profit. So I don't care, you know, what you're making, quote unquote, or what your gross revenue is. You know, if you're successful, you're going to be focusing on the profit. And that's what we're going to look at today, is how you profit $100,000 from real estate sales, not how you make $100,000 in real estate sales. So let's take a look at that today. Before we get going, please check me out on Patreon. I will have a link below. I would really appreciate it if you like these videos and want to see more of them. If you could sign up at $1 a month just to support the channel, that would be fantastic. We also offer very light coaching and masterminding, $10 a month for solo agents and beginning agents. You also get downloadable content such as my expired mailer list or mailer campaign, for sale by owner contract, and some other sales related and marketing stuff that we have available. I do offer coaching at $100 a month for team builders who want to build a team or in the process of building a team, and they have their own special downloadable content available on Patreon as well. Check that out below. So let's get started. Netting $100,000 in real estate sales may be easier than you think. And what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at if you are set up with a 100% brokerage or a cap model like EXP or Keller Williams Realty, or if you're at a high split brokerage like RE/MAX, we're going to look at how you can net $100,000. We will also have a video released soon that will show you how to net $100,000 if you're on a 50-50 split. Anywhere in between, you can still use these same numbers and the same concepts to figure out how you can net $100,000. But when it all comes down to it, once we break this down, what you're going to see is it's actually easier than you might think to net $100,000 in real estate sales. And we're going to look at that today. I'm going to show you how easy it can be and what you really need to focus on. And you really may find out that it may only take you 2 or 3 hours a day of actual focus in order to bring that bottom line. So to get started with this calculation, we are going to start with the number that we want to profit. So we're going to start with $100,000. That's what we want to profit. So we're going to write that in the top up here. We're also going to write in your costs of sales. So if you are at a high split brokerage, let's say we'll use, I don't know, 100% split brokerage as an example. 100% split brokerage that is near us, they charge roughly $800 per transaction. Now, to me, that doesn't sound like a great deal, but the thing is that you can calculate what it's going to cost you roughly per transaction. So if you were to do 20 transactions, it's going to cost you $16,000. So if you know your number of units, you know what that cost is going to be, and you can work that in here. So we could say $16,000 if we were using that company as an example, if we were going to do 20 units. What I'm going to use a cap company as an example. So I'm going to assume that you work for a cap company and your total cap plus royalty plus any other fees is going to be about $24,000. Now, the company that I work for, we do have monthly fees that covers E&O insurance, MLS dues, all that sort of stuff. The monthly fees are roughly $125. And then we got to pay for our realtor dues. We got to pay for our key box, like our super keypad or whatever it's called, and some other stuff along the way. So it's roughly going to cost around $2,500 a year for us individually to stay licensed, okay? So we're going to add those back in because in order for us to net that 100, we got to gross enough to cover those costs. Now, if you have any other costs, you need to factor those in as well. If you're paying $1,000 a month for leads or something like that, that needs to be factored into this as well. So you got to add in any other sort of expenses to really get the right calculation. But for the sake of doing this easy and for the sake of doing this for like individual agents who have really low overhead and aren't paying for leads or any other crazy systems, this calculation is going to work for you. All right. So we're going to add that up real quick, and we get $126,500. So if we wanted to net $100,000, we're going to have to gross $126,500, right? And now what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what sort of volume we're going to have to close in order to make that money. So let's divide by our average commission in the area, and around here it's 3%. It may be different around your location depending on the average sale price and whatnot, but you want to use an average commission that makes sense. Around here it's 3%. So we're going to divide that by 3%, and that's going to give us the volume that we're going to need to close in order to net that money, right? And that's going to give us a volume of 4,217,000 roughly. So this is average commission, and this is volume closed. So there's our closed volume goal. If we're going to net 100, we need to close this volume, right? Now we're going to want to divide that by what our average sale price is. So what's your average sale price? You should know what your average sale price is. If you're a new agent, you want to look at the market and see what the market averages are, okay? To make things relatively easy, we're going to say that the average sale price is $200,000. And that means that we're going to have to close, I do believe it's 21 transactions. So we're going to divide by average sale price, and we're going to get 21 closed deals. Okay? And we call this units. So this is units closed. All right? Now, other ratios, other numbers. So let's keep working this backwards, right? We want to know what our daily activity should look like. How are we going to get to this $100,000? We're getting more details as we work, but we want to get it down to the point where we can say, how much time do we have to spend doing this activity in order to net $100,000? That's where we're going to take this, okay? So your conversion rate right now in a good market is going to be roughly 70 to 80% is what we're going to estimate. So if you get a property listing or if you get a buyer listed or under contract, the chance of you getting to the closing table right now is maybe 70% is what we'll say the average is. And that's going to kind of make it kind of a worst case scenario, right? So if we're going to close 70% of the deals taken, in order for us to close 21, we're going to actually have to close, let me divide this by 70%, we're going to actually have to put under contract at least 30 listings, we're going to call them. I'm going to call them listings, whether it's a buyer contract or a seller contract, we're just going to call it listings. I'm going to call it listings because I like seller contracts. There's way more leverage in seller contracts, and that's kind of where we're going to lean when we start working back into the time spent, right? So you need to put 30 properties under contract in order to close 21 of them. You got to get 30 contracts to close 21, all right? In order for you to get 30 contracts, we're going to assume that you don't have a really great conversion rate and that your appointment to close conversion rate is only 50%. So we're going to divide this now by 50%. And you're going to have to go on 60 appointments in order to get 30 contracts written. Okay? So that's 60 appointments. Okay? Now we are going to work from 60 and go backwards. So I'm going to erase this and we're going to start at the top and work our way back down from 60 appointments. Okay, so up here we have our 60 appointments. We're going to work backwards from our 60 appointments. And how many people would we have to talk to get 60 appointments? That's what we want to know now. The ratios are either 40 to 1 or 12 to 1. And typically when I'm coaching an agent, I'm going to ask the agent, which would you prefer, 40 to 1 or 12 to 1? 40 to 1 means that you need to talk to 40 people to get one appointment. 12 to 1 means you need to talk to 12 people to get one appointment. Which would you prefer? And usually I get to 12 to 1. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at worst case scenario. We're going to say that you have to talk to 40 people to get one appointment. Okay? So we're going to take our 60 appointments, we're going to multiply that by 40 contacts. So, and when we say contacts, we mean contacts made, like you have connected with the person and you have talked to them or you've had a conversation via text message or email. That's a contact. We're not talking about you called them and left a voicemail. You talked to them or you actually communicated via text message or email back and forth. There was a two-way street of communication. All right, so that's going to give us how many connections we would have to make in order to get those 60 appointments. And the number is 2,400 connections. That may seem a lot. Now, what happens usually when I show this to most agents look at this and their jaw drops, and I can see them like starting to doubt whether they want to be in real estate anymore. So let's look at 2,400 connections. You've got the whole damn year to make 2,400 connections, okay? I'm not asking you to make 2,400 connections right now, okay? So let's spread it out over a year. There are 52 work weeks in a year. We're going to assume that you're going to be on vacation for 4 of those, so you're only going to work 48 weeks in a year. So we're going to divide by 48 work weeks. And that's going to give us the number of connections per week that we're going to need to make. That is 50 connections per week. Now, is that a huge number of people that have to talk to in a week? No, not really. We're going to divide it by 5 work days. So there's usually 5 work days in a week. 5 work days. So that brings us down to 10 connections per day. Is that a whole lot of people to have to talk to in a day? No, not really. How many hours would it take for you to talk to 10 people with a very focused and purposeful conversation? How many hours would it take for you to talk to 10 people with a very purposeful and focused conversation? My guess is 2 to 3 hours. Okay, I think I could definitely talk to 5 people in an hour with a focused conversation. I'm not the type that's going to chat it up about small talk. We're going to get to the point and we're going to move on, especially if I'm calling people I don't know. Okay, so this here, we're going to say it's going to take us 3 hours per day to do these 10 connections. Okay? Now, if we spend 3 hours per day doing those 10 connections, we're going to end up getting 60 appointments. Remember that? So now, if we can do an appointment, let's assume that we can do an appointment in an hour and a half. And that would include any sort of travel time and back and forth, right? That's very possible. And in this day and age, like, you can do these appointments virtually for the most part. Like, you can have a listing consultation virtually. You can have a buyer consultation virtually. You don't even necessarily have to travel. And that can cut down the time that it takes for you to actually do the appointment. But we're just going to say about an hour and a half per appointment, and there's 60 appointments. So there's a total time investment here of 90 hours. Okay? So let's take the 3 hours a day and we're going to add that up. There are, like I said, 48 work weeks. There's 5 days in a work week, so there's 240 work days times 3 hours. That's 720 hours total in the year. So between the 720 hours and the 90 hours, that's really the brunt of the time that we need to spend in order to make that $100,000, net that $100,000. So we add those up and we end up getting 810 hours in a year, okay? 810 hours in a year, and we're going to divide that again by 48. That gives us 16.875 hours per week, which means in under 20 hours per week, we have the activities done that's going to net us $100,000. Okay? Did you think that it would take you more than 20 hours to net $100,000? You probably did. And you probably did because if you're an experienced agent or you've been doing this for a little while, you know that you spend a whole lot of time doing other things. And unfortunately, many agents don't know what they should be focusing on, and they spend time doing things like posting on Facebook or looking at Instagram and posting a photo there, hanging out in a coffee shop, whatever, you know, talking to your friends with no focus. And these agents are busy, but they're not productive, okay? If you want to be productive, this is how you do it. You drill down in the numbers and you figure out what your sole purpose is and stick to that purpose. So your purpose, if you want to net $100,000, is to get 60 appointments and take, 30 contracts and close 21 deals at an average sale price of $200,000. And you're going to do that by connecting with 10 people a day, and you're going to only spend about 17 hours a week connecting with people and going on appointments and getting contracts signed. And then you've got an extra 20 hours a week that you can spend servicing your clients and getting your listings sold. Okay? I hope that makes sense. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and visit me on Patreon. I would really love it if you swung by and supported the channel with a $1 per month donation and or signed up for the coaching and masterminding that we have available. And I will see you again soon. Take care.